Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. UFC is going to St. Louis, Missouri, and they have a pretty decent card. But we're going to break down the flyweight matchup between Jake Hadley and Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson actually is from the area, so like he kind of pushed for this fight and for this slot. And yeah, man, Charles Johnson, Jake Hadley. It's a really good matchup, solid matchup between two guys, kind of in different like phases of their career, but still top guys in the world, right? He's Hadley's number 23 worldwide, and Charles Johnson's number 26 ranked. Johnson a lot more active in his career, so let's go into Johnson's history.
Yeah. He's a lot more fights, right?
Yeah, a lot more fights. Charles Johnson, 14-6, 33 years old. He's on a one-fight win streak, which basically saved his UFC career in many ways. A short notice fight against an undefeated prospect, and went in there and won that fight. Snapped a 3-fight losing streak.
Nice.
Ahead of that, it was all decision losses. A split decision, which was short notice against O'Day Osborne. I remember he was in Thailand training, and they gave him the short notice call, and he flew back to the States for that fight. Lost a split, then he lost to Cody Durden, and then lost the fight to Rafael Esteban. But then came back on short notice with all of it on the line.
Yeah.
And performed against Azmat Maxim, who was like this undefeated, highly hyped prospect, and won the fight. So now he's back in the win column, doing this thing. What do you know about Charles Johnson?
I don't know a huge amount. I know he's obviously for the division. I know he's very experienced. Cardio tank from what I hear. But I wasn't around when he was here in Thailand. So, I remember the fight with O'Day was very close. And
you know O'Day, right?
Yeah, I trained with O'Day before. So, and that's the thing, like, I feel like a lot of the fights in the division are always going to be really close. The flyweight division is just one of those kind of things. But I also feel like the fact that he's lost by decision and not been finished in that skid, that does say something, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
And two of them were splits anyway. So that's always like sort of like hairpin, like a hairpin loss, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I think he's in a good position, and it's likely he's going to have maybe more grit and more readiness. I just don't know what his ground looks like, because I know Healy, right? Healy is... Hadley, sorry. Yeah. Hadley is... I always like watching his ground.
Yeah, he's very good. Like, he's not as known, I think, as Charles Johnson, because Charles Johnson's had 7 fights in the UFC. He's had 7 fights since 2022.
Yeah, I mean, that's a short time frame.
A couple of short notice fights there. I think 3 or 4 he took.
Yeah.
Just because, he's ready. He wants to fight.
That's the thing.
Sometimes you got to do it like that, but it's risky.
Yeah.
It's risky because the UFC doesn't reward everybody for taking short notice fights. It's just, it's just like they don't really care. They do, that they don't. It all depends on like who you are and what position you're in. Who's your manager? Who's your training partner?
Yeah.
Is the Korean Zombie your best friend? I don't know. Things like that.
Yeah.
So Charles Johnson, I've known Charles Johnson for a long time, and I've probably done like 8 or 9 interviews with him. So I followed his career pretty closely. A really solid dude, man. He trains. He does a lot of cross training. So he's always like, he was at Tiger. I think he won the tryouts, or maybe I'm not for sure. Maybe he won the tryouts, and then he stayed for the year, and he came back, and then he was in Philadelphia with like Marquez MMA. There's like a bunch of UFC fighters there. Randy Brown goes there as well to do training, and then he was in Miami, in Florida, at Fusion Excel.
Man, he's been all over.
Yeah, so like he has good connections, and it shows you like a type of person he is, where he can go to different gyms and train.
Yeah.
And he could go to American Top Team and train, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big issue. It shows you the type of person he is. Skill wise, he has speed, he has cardio, but is cardio like really a weapon in the flyweight division?
Not
Because it seems like
really.
everybody has it, right?
Everybody should have cardio for the
Yeah.
most part.
And then speed also. It's like most people
Are
except
fast.
for someone like a Manel Kopp, who's like just elite speed, like just born with it. Basically, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he works on it, but you know, you could tell like
It's
he could have
just-
probably been an athlete for any sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just his
Yeah.
athleticism. But like, yeah, speed. But the thing I like about him is he's fearless. Like he will stand in the pocket and trade with you. He will mix in. His wrestling is good. He just doesn't mix it in because he knows that people want to watch striking. So he uses his wrestling to kind of just like combat any kind of like ground.
Yeah.
So he could stand and you know, strike. And yeah, so like the Cody Durden fight, he was wrestled in that fight, which, you know, didn't allow him to strike any.
Yeah.
And he lost. But yeah, like I like this matchup for him. You know what I mean? It's hard to say like, because all of his losses are decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of his losses have been decisions. He's never been finished. Yeah, even in his amateur career, never been finished.
And a lot of those fights and everything were,
Very close. Right?
yeah.
So like if you look on the flip side, Jake Hadley, 10-2 record, 27. So he's much younger,
Yeah.
right? Much younger.
Less active though.
Yeah, really less active, because if you look at, he's had 4 UFC fights, and then in the last, what is it?
I mean, I
Since
was
2022,
yeah.
he's had 4 fights
Yeah.
compared to
7.
7. Yeah, it's a huge difference, right? There's been like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 canceled fights on his end.
His last one, when was
Cody
that?
Durden
Cody Durden.
lost by decision.
Oh, okay.
So it's like kind of Cody Durden uses kind of like the same
Yeah.
game plan and execution, and did really well. I thought Cody Durden, he's a solid fighter as well. Cody
Yeah,
Durden, you know what I mean?
he
You can't
really
put
is.
nothing against him. But yeah, he what is it? Hadley, he's the one that was on the Contender Series and missed weight, won the fight, and still got signed.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's kind of a weird thing, but it happened. Yeah, Hadley.
I think I paid a little bit more attention to Hadley just simply because, well, has really nice jiu-jitsu. So like
Yeah.
I would go, oh man, like I like having a look at this kind of thing. But you know, having good jiu-jitsu doesn't necessarily put you in the position that you need to be in. You know what I mean? Like if someone has good, takedown defense, well, how are you gonna get to where you need to be and everything? So, I don't know. Just based on honestly, just based on activity, right? I don't know how Hadley necessarily would win. If that
He would
makes
have
sense.
to, he would have to get it to the ground.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's going to be what he needs to do. But he showed in the Malcolm Gordon fight that his striking is getting better. I mean,
yeah.
of course, his back pocket, he has the jiu-jitsu. He has a bunch of rear naked choke finishes. So
Yeah.
once he takes your back, he does a really good
Backpack
job
man.
of staying there and attacking. Right. And, he has a triangle choke finish
I was gonna say.
against Carlos Candelario. But yeah, like the inactivity, I don't think the speed or like cardio is going to be a factor. I think the cardio will be a factor more on Charles Johnson's side. Like it might even help him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when it gets to the third round, I'm picking Charles Johnson to win a decision in this fight. I don't think nobody finishes anybody. But if you were going to pick Hadley, I could see if he gets it to the ground, some wild exchanges happening. We'll see whose jiu-jitsu is better.
Yeah.
Because Charles Johnson doesn't really use it.
Yeah.
His own.
I think Johnson by decision as well. I think if there's any sort of finish, it might be like some crazy scramble. Hadley gets the back.
Yeah. But you never know in a fight too. It's just like what if Johnson gets the back?
Yeah, well, but that would be a huge upset.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like if Johnson, subs Hadley,
Yeah,
you
that's
sub a
huge.
submission specialist.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that. So but yeah, I see it the same way. I think the experience and I think just the activity is going to play. I think that's going to be
Yeah.
the main factor.
And Johnson's going to be at home.
Yeah.
And he's
So
gonna be
no
in front of his
travel,
crowd.
yeah.
He's gonna be the hometown hero type thing. It gives you a little extra edge. Yeah, man. I think Johnson. He cut his teeth. Now it's time for him to become a contender.
Yeah.
This is his first step. Hadley as well. Hadley's much younger though.
Hadley's
Johnson's
got
time
time,
is
yeah.
limited. Hadley's 27,
Yeah.
right? So in the division at 27, and you're fighting guys like Charles Johnson, you're on the right path.
Yeah,
And he gets
exactly.
this win, he'll probably end up getting like a ranked guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, it's gonna be a big fight. So I'm taking Johnson by decision, but Hadley by submission wouldn't be a surprise. But Johnson by TKO wouldn't be by surprise either.
If Hadley stands in the pocket,
Yeah. Yeah.
if he's not smart about where he wants to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, those are, I think it's going to end up being one of those things. I bet you Johnson will drop him at some point,
Mm-hmm.
rush in. Hadley will hit some scramble positions, have some back control, but not get the finish. And then it ends up going to decision. It's
Boom.
kind of how I see it.